We've had lots of films and photography and novels about rich people during the Depression and poor people during the Depression, those stock photos of bread lines or rich people jumping out windows. But this is very much a book and a film about the middle class during the Depression. I'm wondering what some of the challenges of that.
When I first read Mildred Pierce, it was right as the financial markets were tumbling in the summer of '08, and I had only known the Curtiz film.
Yeah.
And I was just struck by how relevant, how immediate, how familiar these issues were. But I felt that that was all the more reason to make it feel familiar.
Another way in which it felt very contemporary to me is that it's the best story I know of a single mother. You know, a woman without skills entering the job market. The focus is on work right from the opening shots of her in the kitchen. And you don't even know it's her, actually, for a little bit, making these pies while through the windows her husband's mowing the lawn outside. And it becomes, I think, very much a film about work and what work means, which is also rare.
Which is rare when you look at the tradition of domestic drama, maternal melodramas, which often have a very solid division between what goes on at home and what goes on in the workplace. And women are usually excluded from that. And she is this extraordinary character who functions by doing and by producing. She's not reflective. Her sense of self, her sense of self-awareness, I think, is all manifest through what she produces and how she takes action to deal with her conflicts.
Mildred is totally obsessed with class. She refuses the first jobs that she's offered because she can't imagine the effect it will have on Vida.
That whole first episode, I think, is this profound and incremental recalibration of this woman who thought she knew who she was based on this relationship to a husband and as a mother in a middle-class life that gets completely uprooted in the first scene. And she has to begin to take stock of what her assets are. And that begins with this amazing lecture that Lucy gives her, played by Melissa Lea, about the new rules of being a single post-divorcee in the world and what her currency is.
So you really think I want to be kept?
Yes.
And you sort of sense that Lucy doesn't really know who Mildred is either under these new circumstances. It's almost like she's figuring it out as well. And there's that final speech Lucy gives before Mildred gets sick and runs to the bathroom. It's almost like by process of elimination, she starts to get a sense of who she might be in the world. Of course, it coincides with this splitting, I think, of herself, and it has to do with these issues of pride. And I think what she learns is that to preserve and nurture pride in a family as a mother, it costs something. You have to sort of give up your own in order to preserve your daughters.
That pride? Oh, I wouldn't give a snap of my finger for it, but you're right about her. Vida wouldn't do it herself, but she's willing to let you do it and eat the cake.
That's what I want for both of them.
And the arc of the whole episode is that it starts with Mildred Pierce and ends with this incredible shot of Vida, who we discover has been overhearing everything that's being said in the bathroom. Could you talk a little bit about that shot? Because it reminded me a little bit almost of like 70s horror films.
Well, it was definitely an attempt to demarcate this character who, in many ways, after you've experienced the first episode, it's hard to really know what relative importance she's going to have.
Yeah.
And yet, something that you do see pretty early on in our visual language is a slight remove from the action, a tendency toward observational visual language, where we're looking at Mildred through doorways, ultimately through windows, through vehicles, mediated through frames of her various locations and domains. And what I always thought this might do to you is make you think about who's watching her. And who's watching who? And short of me wanting to say literally that Vida is watching everything and observing it, what I hope for is just enough of a distance from the action where you can see both of these female characters trying to differentiate themselves from each other.